What's going on YouTube? My name is Trevor. This is Trigger Ballistics. Welcome to the channel. This channel we talk about guns, gears, gadgets, we do live fire shooting, all that good stuff. If that's something you guys like or are interested in seeing or knowing more about, hit that subscribe button and like the video. It helps me out a lot and I appreciate y'all. For the 70 subscribers that I have right now, I love y'all. Thank you for support, and thanks for supporting me along the way. That being said, guys, today's video is going to be about which firearm is going to be the best for you when thinking about everyday carry and defending yourself and utilizing your Second Amendment right to defend yourself and your property. So I have a small lineup here. These are all firearms that I've bought and I've carried personally. I'm not a rich man. I don't have a wall of guns behind me and all that good stuff. I don't own a firearm selling company or anything like that. These are just a few of my lineup. Well, it's almost all of my lineup. I have one more pistol in there, but I didn't fit for this video. So first and foremost, let's get into the budget guns. And I say budget loosely. I'm talking about the $200 and under $200 under gun. It was $200 under when I bought it. I think they're like $250 now, but still relatively inexpensive to own. So first and foremost, this is the Taurus PT111 Gen2. Let's clear it, make sure there's no rounds in the chamber. All clear. So this is mine. I did a little custom spray bomb job on this boy. This was all black. I had a can of OD green. Well, I guess this is more like Vietnam era OD green sitting around, and I was like, you know what? I just want to give it a shot and see what it looks like. It turned out pretty cool. Over the course of a few years of carrying it, it kind of has like this distressed look going on with it right now. But anyways, this is the PT111 Gen2. This is chambered in 9mm. It is a 12+1. So the magazine, it holds 12 in the mag and 1 in the chamber. This is a pretty good firearm for the price point. I put probably close to 3,000 rounds for this firearm. I fell in love with this thing, and this was my primary carry for years. For years, literal years. I've owned this thing since I was 21 years old. And plus I haven't really had enough money to go out and buy firearms up until, you know, as I got older and started making more money. But as for someone first starting out wanting to get into owning a gun, doesn't really know what they want, but doesn't want to spend a lot of money, your Taurus PT111 is probably going to be your best choice. But they have more generations now. They have the PT111 Gen 3, Gen G3C, and I guess the C's are the single stack options. They just came out with the GX4. Taurus has really stepped up their game in the last 10 years. So bravo to Taurus. But the reason why I stopped carrying this firearm is I actually had a major malfunction with it. I was at the range and I was putting rounds down range, and it double fed, and so after it double fed, it wouldn't cycle rounds at all. So I racked the slide and put one in the chamber, and then it would fire, but it wouldn't put a new round in. So I had to rack it again and fire, rack it again, fire, rack it again, fire. So I just quickly realized that this wasn't going to work anymore for a EDC self-defense gun. But I'm sure I can send it in somewhere to get it fixed. I'm sure it's not a big deal, but it kind of just put a sour taste in my mouth. So, but it is a budget gun, so it is $250, you know, and under. So I think after 3,000 rounds, I think I got my money's worth out of it. So I put my life in its hands for, you know, a couple years now, and so I'm very happy with this. So if you're trying to get into firearms and you're not trying to spend a whole butt ton of money, look into the PT111 Gen2 or the G2 series, G2C, G3. Look into those series, and you'll probably be very happy with what you buy. So we're going to stick with Tauruses. So right here we have a 38 special. This is a Taurus M85. It is clear. So this is a Taurus M85 revolver. I bought this because I thought I wanted to carry a snub nose around, and I thought I was a cowboy, and so yeah, But we quickly moved away from that because, you know, only having 5 rounds in a situation where you could need more than that just didn't sit well with me. But this thing is a super reliable. I mean, it shoots every time you pull the hammer back and pull the trigger. This is a very reliable firearm. So if you're talking about reliability, you can't go wrong with a revolver. But they do have their problems, you know. They're not perfect, but they're probably one of the most reliable firearms you can get. But I'm not a huge revolver guy. I do own 2 of them, but I'm not a huge revolver guy. There's some guys out there that live by them. You know, there's a few people that I know that can do all the tricks, and I wasn't that guy. I probably put maybe 300 rounds to this thing. That's just kind of how I feel. This is my personal opinion on them. But, you know, great for if you want to put something on your ankle, or, you know, you can literally put this thing in your pocket. I mean, it's smaller than the size of my hand. So it's a pretty good firearm, very reliable. And this firearm was, I think this was under $300. I don't remember what I paid for this. I've owned this for a few years. I've owned this since I was 22, and I'm almost 30 now. So if you see how clean and new this thing looks, if that tells you anything, you know, if that tells you anything about how often I use this thing. But it served its purpose, and it continues to serve its purpose. There's a reason why they still sell them today. It's because it's not going away. This is a firearm that has stood the test of time. So that being said, let's move on to our next firearm. This is one that I used to carry. This is the Canik TP9 SF Elite. This is chambered in 9mm. This is considered a full size, although it comes standard with 15 round mags. I do have 17 rounders. They do make a bigger version of this, but this is the full size version of the SF. They have an SC, which is the subcompact version. That's a little bit more concealable, but this is the full, I think it's a 4.5-inch slide. So I'm not a very big guy. I'm 6 foot, 205 pounds. When I was concealing this thing, it was kind of difficult for me to conceal this. So I carried this for close to a year. And I've put, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 rounds for this thing. I've only ever had one malfunction with it, and it was because my firing pin broke. All of a sudden I was firing, and then all of a sudden nothing. I pulled the trigger, nothing. Racket, nothing. And I thought I was having light strikes, and I was looking at the rounds, and there was no even an indentation in the primer. And I'm like, goodness gracious. So I got on some forums, and they're saying that there was like a mechanism on the inside that wasn't catching properly. But fortunately, I took the back plate off, pulled the firing pin off, and lo and behold, my firing pin sheared off. So after 3,000 rounds, you know, something to gauge. But they have an upgrade firing pin that's, you know, that I guess is better than the one they send out. So that being said, this is a fantastic firearm. It's super reliable. The trigger on it is just phenomenal. Oh, I forgot to clear it. So this is a cleared firearm. The trigger squeeze is phenomenal. I don't know if you want to take a look at that. So you know what? I'm going to show you this way. So right here's your wall. Right there's the wall. It's just so smooth. And then a crisp break at the end. Oh, the trigger on this thing is just phenomenal. So this one, I do have a threaded barrel on it, and a TLR 1. So it's a 1,000 lumen flashlight. I'm big on flashlights. I'm not huge on night sights. So I'm not a huge believer in night sights. Let me put it that way. I'm sure they have their purpose in some of their applications in some aspects. I'm just not a huge believer in them. The reason being is because in low light situations, you can't really see them unless you have a light behind you that's kind of illuminating the night sight. It's just, you know, I'm a huge believer in identifying your target. So if you're engaging a target, you want to be able to know what you're shooting at. And just having a flashlight on the front, just, you know, you definitely know what you're shooting at. You want to know what's behind your target. That way you don't accidentally shoot somebody who wasn't involved, or you have ricochet, or you just need to know what you're shooting at to be able to engage and do, you know, threat management, all that stuff. Also, another thing about lights that I really like is it helps recoil. So recoil management, it makes the front of the firearm a little bit heavier. So I guess, you know, holding it, I mean, I don't notice it because this is just all I've, you know, I'm pretty adept to it because I've been having lights on my firearms for about a year now. So when you're firing it, I mean, it helps keep the barrel shooting flatter so that your slide stays flatter, so your groups stay tighter. But nothing fixes recoil unlike actually going out and shooting, getting familiar with your firearm. So that being said, there's nothing more I can really talk about the Canik. The hand grip is phenomenal on this thing. It's just very comfortable. It doesn't have flared mag well for loading in mags. But that's something you can add on to, and plus if you're concealing it, you don't want a flared mag well. It's just you don't want to imprint, not impress, but imprint on your t-shirt. But like I said, this I would recommend if you're going to carry Canik TP9 or the TP9 series, I would get the SC, the subcompact version. It's just a little bit smaller. It comes to probably about here, and the mag is a little bit shorter. Lot easier to conceal. I often talked about our buying one with optics ready because I was going to do slide work on this. But I decided not to because the slide work was going to be like $250 when you can literally buy an optics ready version for $379. So spend the extra $150 and get a new firearm. So that's just my thought process on that. So if you want to go to the Canik, you are not going to be unimpressed. This is a very reliable firearm. Like I said, I've only ever had one issue with the firing pin after 3,000 rounds. But that being said, this is a fantastic firearm. I would highly recommend it, although I would get the SC version rather than the SF. I think this would be a fantastic firearm to have if you're out hiking and you have an OWB holster. OWB means out of waistband. So for those of you that don't understand holsters, you have your IWB and then OWB. So IWB is your inside waistband holster, and OWB is outside waistband holster. And here's a prime example. So this is my T-Rex sidecar from T-Rex Arms. This is an IWB holster. This I carry appendix, so it sits inside my waist. This is for my Glock 19. And then an OWB holster. This is a Safariland, so you can see the belt loops right here. Your belt goes through that, and you can carry it 4 o'clock. Or I'm sorry, yeah, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So this is your OWB holster. So for me, this is I can't really conceal these unless I'm wearing a big heavy coat. But I've never concealed an OWB holster. I've always carried appendix. You know, a lot of people say, you know, you're gonna shoot yourself in the private parts. No, you're not. You're not. Especially if you have good trigger control. You don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're ready to fire. Make sure you have a good holster so the holster doesn't catch the trigger. I mean, it's not rocket science, it's not rocket surgery. You know, it's pretty self-explanatory. I do carry one in the chamber. I carry Israeli style because there's nothing like, you know, putting your seatbelt on while you're crashing your car. So, you know, that's my opinion on that. So last but not least, this is my Glock 19 MOS Gen 5. This is probably my favorite firearm that I have. The reason why I went with Glock over my Canik is the accessibility of aftermarket parts and aftermarket support for this firearm. I found when I owned the Canik, and I'm sure in the next upcoming years that Canik will start getting the same support as Glock does in the aftermarket market, but that's not here yet. So finding parts for this, you have to go directly to Canik. You can't. There's like 15 different Canik scam groups out there. It's just aftermarket support for the Canik is not where it should be yet, and I'm sure it's coming, but not yet. So the reason why I went with Glock is because everybody has parts for Glocks. I mean, there's probably 100 different companies that sell parts directly or for Glocks, primarily for Glocks. Everyone, you know, every person that I've met that had some aspect of you know, military background all carry Glocks. It's just, you know, you watch videos on SEALs, and most of the SEALs are carrying Glocks. Green Berets, after they get out of the military, they're all carrying Glocks. So there's a reason why these high tier, high caliber guys are going to Glocks. It's because of reliability, and I'm sure it has something to do with the aftermarket aspect of this firearm. But you know, let's talk about this one in particular. You know, I kind of went off on a tangent there. So this one in particular is the Glock 19 MOS Gen 5. MOS is optics ready, so I do have a vortex venom red dot on the top. This is a very inexpensive red dot to get into, but still high quality. Vortex's warranty is just chef's kiss, top notch. I mean, literally no questions asked. I actually had to send this one in because the glass, there was like some kind of residue in between the glasses, and they literally sent me a new one, no questions asked. I mean, I had to send this one in so they could take a look at it. Or not this one, but my old one. I had to send it in for them to look at it, but they paid for the shipping, they paid for everything. Literally no questions asked. They just said, okay, we got it. Send it in, we'll take care of you. So send it in, they took care of me, they sent me a new one. If you're looking to get a red dot for yours, it literally, it is a total game changer. Like I've only, all my other firearms here are iron sights. I've only shot iron sights. This is the first firearm I've ever had with red dot, and it is a total game changer. Like it is a total game changer. The hardest part about shooting with the red dot is finding the dot. But when you're doing your dry fire exercises, and I do recommend you do dry fire exercises, but do them with a purpose. Don't just, you know, don't just squeeze the trigger and rack around, squeeze the trigger. Do them with a purpose. So, you know, holster your firearm, pull it out, you know, test yourself, you know, acquire your target, pull the trigger, but dry fire. I mean, don't put a round in it. Don't say, you know, don't come back here and say, Trevor, you told me to, you know, rack around. And no, dry fire, which means no rounds in the chamber, so dry fire. Do it with a purpose, you know, test yourself, you know, go slow, you know, smooth is slow, or how does it go, is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So go slow at first, you know, get familiar with your firearm, learn good holding techniques, and you want to make sure that you have as much skin on your firearm as possible. So you want to get a good holding technique for your firearms. I went off on a tangent again. Sorry about that. So you know, like I said, dry fire with a purpose. But anyways, this Glock 19 is chambered to 9mm. Everything about it is stock except for the light and the optic. This one is the most expensive out of all of them. So this was $750 out the door. That included tax, so it was really $700. So this was $700, not including tax. So it's the most expensive one out of all of my firearms here. But if you're putting a price in your life, you know, you kind of have to weigh that. So the price of reliability is high, I would assume. So this is the most, you know, in my opinion, is probably one of the most reliable firearms. You know, SIG, Glock, you know, when you're thinking of firearms for pistols, concealed carrying, SIG, Glock, M&P, you know, these are up there. Walther's, you know, Walther's another good one. But for me, this is my most favorite firearm that I own. So that concludes today's video, guys. I hope you liked this. I hope this made choosing a good everyday carry for a beginner shooter very easy. I know I kind of went off on tangents there, but that's just kind of how I am. You know, I'm telling a story to you guys. I kind of go off and tell other stories. So that being said, guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, like the video, subscribe. So stay tuned for more content that I'm going to be pushing out. I do have a full-time job, so finding time to make videos is kind of few and far between for me right now, until this takes off a little bit more and I can actually delegate time to make this more appropriate, or not appropriate, but more, you know, I can dedicate more time to it. I'm just doing this as a hobby right now because I like it, and like to help other people out too. So that being said, guys, if you like this video, like, subscribe, appreciate it. And for the 70 subscribers that I have, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Bye.